Under the dark sky, the night was silent, almost too calm for the small town of Ridgefield. The wind whispered through the trees, and only the hum of distant street lights broke the stillness. Ethan was fixing an old motorcycle in his small workshop when a sudden flash lit up the sky. It was not lightning. It was brighter, blue, and it felt alive. The ground shook under his feet as something massive tore through the clouds and crashed in the forest behind his house. Birds scattered, alarms went off, and then silence again. Ethan stood frozen, his tool still in hand, staring at the glowing trail in the distance. Curiosity and fear mixed inside him. Against his better judgment, he grabbed a flashlight and ran toward the forest. The smell of smoke and burning metal filled the air. Branches were broken, trees crushed. In the middle of the wreckage was something that looked like a spaceship, small, cracked, and still glowing faintly. Sparks danced from its broken parts. Ethan's heart raced. He had seen many strange things in his life, but nothing like this. Slowly, he stepped closer, covering his mouth from the smoke. The ship made a low humming sound, like it was alive and breathing. Through a shattered window, he saw movement, something small curled up inside. He hesitated for a moment, then climbed through the wreck. Inside, the air was thick and heavy. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. The small figure inside moved again, weakly. Ethan knelt down and saw it clearly. A child, but not human. Its skin shimmered faintly like silver under moonlight, and its eyes, half open, glowed a soft blue. It looked scared, trembling, and hurt. Ethan's fear slowly faded. Whatever it was, it needed help. Carefully, he lifted the small body in his arms. It was light, fragile. As he carried it out of the ship, the child whispered a word in a voice soft as wind. "Queen." Then it fainted. Ethan hurried home through the dark, looking over his shoulder, afraid someone might see him. When he reached his workshop, he placed the child gently on a blanket and tried to think. Should he call someone? The police? The army? But what if they hurt the child? He had seen how people reacted to things they didn't understand. He couldn't let that happen. He cleaned the child's wounds carefully, wrapping a small bandage around its arm. The glowing skin slowly dimmed, and the child started breathing more calmly. Ethan sat beside it, confused but calm, whispering to himself, "What are you, little one?" Hours passed. The night outside was quiet again, but Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept watching the child. At one point, it opened its eyes. They were bright blue, shining softly in the dark room. It looked at him, blinking, then reached out its small hand and touched his face. For a second, Ethan felt warmth spreading through him, like energy passing from the child to him. Then it smiled, a small, innocent smile, and closed its eyes again. Ethan sat there, unable to look away. Something deep inside him told him that this child was important, that fate had brought it to him for a reason. But far above the earth, something else was happening. In the cold black of space, massive ships moved silently. At their center was a throne made of silver and crystal, and on it sat the alien queen. Her eyes glowed the same blue as the child's. Her voice echoed through the ship, calm but filled with anger. "Find her," she said. "Find my daughter." Thousands of drones lit up, spreading out like stars. Earth was now being watched. Back on the ground, Ethan noticed something strange. His old radio suddenly came to life, full of static. A robotic voice broke through, repeating the same message again and again. "Return the child. Return the child. The queen will spare your world." Ethan froze. The words felt cold and final. He turned off the radio quickly and looked at the child, who was now awake and watching him quietly. "Is that your queen?" he asked softly. The child tilted its head but said nothing. Then, with effort, it whispered, "She is my mother." Ethan stepped back in shock. The air in the room seemed heavier now. "Your mother? She's coming here?" The child looked sad and nodded slowly. "She will find me, and you." Before Ethan could reply, the lights flickered. Every bulb in the house glowed with strange blue energy. Outside, something moved in the sky, small glowing shapes, flying low and fast. Drones. They were searching. Ethan grabbed the child's hand. "We have to go," he said. He wrapped the child in a blanket and ran to his old truck. The night was no longer silent. The sound of engines filled the air. He looked up and saw blue light scanning the forest. The child held onto him tightly, whispering something he couldn't understand. The truck engine roared to life, and he drove off down the dirt road. The ground trembled as another explosion echoed behind them. The crash site was gone, covered in flames. Ethan knew he couldn't go back. As they drove deeper into the woods, the child suddenly looked up at the sky and whispered, "She knows you now." Ethan frowned. "Who?" "The Queen," the child replied. "She has marked you." At that moment, Ethan felt a burning pain on his arm. He pulled up his sleeve and saw a faint glowing symbol appearing on his skin, the same color as the child's eyes. His heart pounded. He didn't know what it meant, but he could feel it. He was connected to something far bigger than himself. He looked at the child beside him, who stared out the window at the stars with a sad, knowing expression. The night swallowed the sound of the truck as it disappeared into the dark road. Above them, the sky shimmered faintly, as if something was watching from the heavens. Ethan didn't know it yet, but his life, and the fate of two worlds, had just begun to change forever. You said, the night faded slowly into a pale, cold morning. Ethan's truck was parked deep in the woods, hidden beneath old pine trees and thick fog. He had barely slept. The alien child, Lyra, as she had softly told him her name before falling asleep, was curled up in the back seat, wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing was calm, but her skin still glowed faintly under the sunlight that slipped through the branches. Ethan sat by the truck, staring at the strange symbol glowing on his arm. It didn't hurt anymore, but it felt warm, alive, like it was pulsing with every beat of his heart. He tried scrubbing it off with water, then date, even oil, but it didn't fade. Every time he looked at it, a strange whisper echoed in his head. He couldn't understand the words, but it felt like a voice calling to him from far away. He shook his head, trying to ignore it. "Get it together, Ethan," he muttered. "You just need to figure out what's happening." Lyra woke up and looked around with sleepy eyes. "Where are we?" she asked softly, her voice delicate but clear. Ethan smiled faintly. "Somewhere safe, I hope, away from those flying things." She looked up at the sky, and her eyes turned bright blue again. "They are called Seekers," she said. "They look for me. Mother sent them." "Your mother," Ethan said quietly. "The Queen." Lyra nodded. "She thinks you took me." Ethan sighed and leaned against the truck. "Well, technically I did," he said, forcing a small smile. "But I was just trying to help." The child tilted her head, studying him. "Help?" "Yes," Ethan said. "On my planet, we help those who are hurt. You were hurt." Lyra looked down, thinking for a moment. Then she whispered, "You have a kind heart, Ethan." Her words touched him in a strange way. For a moment, he forgot the danger around them. But it didn't last long. The sound of a helicopter broke through the forest air. Ethan's body tensed. He peeked through the trees and saw military vehicles on a distant road. They were searching, and he knew who they were looking for. He turned back to Lyra quickly. "We have to move again." They drove through narrow forest roads for hours, staying hidden from the main highway. Lyra sat quietly beside him, staring at the trees. "Your world is loud," she said suddenly. "Everything feels angry." Ethan glanced at her, surprised. "You can feel that?" "Yes," she replied. "Your people carry fear inside them. It makes the air heavy." Ethan didn't know what to say. Maybe she was right. Humans feared everything they didn't understand. Like her, like the ship that crashed. By the time the sun began to set, they reached an abandoned cabin near a river. It looked old, but strong enough to keep them hidden for the night. Ethan gathered some firewood while Lyra wandered near the water. She touched the river gently, and for a moment, the water shimmered with blue light. Ethan watched, amazed. "You can do that." She turned and nodded shyly. "Energy flows through all things. My people learn to listen to it." Ethan smiled. "Well, I guess I'm not that good at listening." "You are learning," she said softly, and her lips curved into a small smile. That night, as the fire burned quietly, Ethan tried to fix a broken radio he had found in the cabin. Lyra sat beside him, humming a tune that sounded like it came from another world. But suddenly, the radio crackled to life again, filling the room with static. Then came the same cold voice as before. Return the child. The Queen offers mercy. Refuse, and your world will burn. Ethan froze. The firelight flickered across his face. They're getting closer, he whispered. Lyra's eyes dimmed, and she said softly, She doesn't mean to hurt your world. She only wants me back. Ethan turned to her sharply. Then why threaten everyone? Because she's afraid, Lyra said. If her daughter dies, her world dies too. The weight of her words hung in the air. Ethan stared at the mark on his arm. It was glowing again, brighter this time. Why did this happen to me, Lyra? What is this? She hesitated, then touched the symbol gently. You are connected to me now. When you save me, your life force joined with mine. That is why Mother can find you. She feels your energy as if it were her own. Ethan's breath caught. So she's tracking me through this. Yes, Lyra said quietly. She will come. Ethan stood up, pacing the room. Then we can't stay here. I can't let her destroy everything just to get to you. You cannot run from her forever, Lyra said, her voice calm but sad. She is the queen of Valora. The stars obey her call. Ethan stopped and looked at the small child who seemed far too wise for her age. Then what do I do? Lyra's eyes met his, glowing faintly. Help me fix the ship. If I can return safely, she will stop. Ethan rubbed his face, thinking, the ship is destroyed. I don't even know where to start. Someone can help, she whispered. There is a woman near the mountains. She knows the stars. She can find a way. Before Ethan could ask who she meant, the windows of the cabin shook violently. Blue lights flashed outside. He ran to the door and saw drones hovering above the trees, scanning the area. Lyra's glow brightened, and the mark on Ethan's arm burned again. They found us, he said, grabbing her hand. The two of them ran into the forest, branches slapping against their faces, the hum of drones echoing behind them. The night sky flashed with beams of light cutting through the trees. Lyra stumbled, and Ethan picked her up, running faster. His heart pounded as explosions burst in the distance. Behind them, the cabin burst into flames. Ahead, the forest opened into a wide cliff, and Ethan stopped, breathing hard. There was nowhere left to go. The drones surrounded them, their lights blinding. Ethan shielded Lyra in his arms. I won't let them take you, he whispered. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes full of trust. You are brave, Ethan. My mother will see your heart. Before Ethan could reply, a beam of light shot down from the sky, surrounding them both in a glowing circle. The air vibrated with a strange hum. Lyra's eyes closed as she whispered, She is here. The light grew stronger until everything disappeared in a blinding flash. When the light faded, Ethan found himself standing on smooth metallic ground. The air was thin and cold, and the world around him shimmered like glass. He looked around, confused and frightened. There were no trees, no sky, only silver walls stretching endlessly. Blue lights pulsed softly through the floor beneath his feet. Beside him, Lyra stood calmly, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. Where are we? Ethan asked, his voice trembling. Lyra looked up at the glowing ceiling. We are on her ship, she said softly. The Queen has come. Before Ethan could react, the silence broke. The walls around them shifted, forming a massive hall lined with tall armored guards. Their armor was sleek and shining, their helmets shaped like the heads of ancient warriors. Each held a glowing spear that hummed with energy. The soldiers moved in perfect rhythm, forming a path that led to a throne at the far end of the hall. And on that throne sat the Queen. She was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Tall, regal, and surrounded by an aura of blue light, she looked almost human but not quite. Her eyes were cold, glowing with the same soft blue as her daughter's, but sharper, like stars that could cut through darkness. Her armor was made of crystal and gold, her cape flowing like liquid silk. When she stood, the air around her seemed to bend slightly, as if even the atmosphere bowed to her presence. Ethan could feel the power radiating from her, the same energy that burned inside the mark on his arm. Mother, Lyra said, her small voice breaking the silence. The Queen's expression softened for a moment as she looked at her daughter. "My child," she whispered, stepping forward. "You are safe now." She placed a hand on Lyra's head, her touch glowing with light. But when her eyes turned to Ethan, the warmth vanished. Her gaze became sharp and heavy. "You," she said, her voice echoing across the hall. "You are the human who took my daughter." Ethan's mouth went dry. "I didn't take her," he said quickly. "She crashed. Her ship was falling. I just helped her. I saved her." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Saved her, or hid her?" Her voice carried both suspicion and power. "Do you know what happens when a mortal interferes with royal blood?" Ethan shook his head. "I didn't even know who she was. I just couldn't let her die." The Queen stepped closer. Her presence was overwhelming. "You speak of kindness," she said, "yet your kind has done nothing but destroy. Planets, forests, skies, all ruined by your greed. Why should I believe you?" Ethan swallowed hard but didn't look away. "Because I didn't do this for a reward. I did it because she needed help." Lyra stepped between them, holding her mother's hand. "He protected me. Mother, he is not like the others." The Queen looked at her daughter for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes, perhaps doubt, perhaps emotion. But then she turned away and said quietly, "He must still pay the price." Ethan frowned. "Price? What price?" The Queen raised her hand, and suddenly Ethan felt pain burning through his arm where the mark glowed. He fell to his knees as a symbol on his skin flared with light. "You carry my child's life force," the Queen said coldly. "You touched her when she was weak, and your energy joined with hers. You are bound now. Her life is yours. Her pain is yours. You will never escape me." Ethan gasped, clutching his arm. The pain was unbearable. "Please, stop," he shouted. Lyra ran to him, tears in her eyes. "Mother, please. He's not our enemy." The Queen hesitated, her expression unreadable. For a moment, she looked almost human, full of sorrow and conflict. "You are too young to understand," she said softly. "I lost too much to trust anyone again." The hall fell silent. Only the hum of energy filled the air. Then, with a wave of her hand, the Queen ordered, "Take him to the holding chamber." 2 armored guards stepped forward and grabbed Ethan by the arms. He tried to resist, but their strength was inhuman. As they dragged him away, Lyra cried out, "Mother, no, he saved me." But the Queen only turned her face away, whispering to herself, "Kindness from humans always ends in loss." Ethan was thrown into a transparent cell made of glowing walls. The room was small and cold, with a faint blue mist swirling inside. His head throbbed, and the mark on his arm pulsed like a heartbeat. Through the glass, he could see the endless stars outside. For the first time, he realized he was no longer on Earth. He was in space, inside the ship of an alien queen who saw him as both a savior and a threat. Hours passed. Ethan sat on the cold floor, staring at the stars, trying to understand what had happened. He thought of his workshop, his town, his quiet life. Everything felt so far away, like a dream he could never return to. The mark on his arm glowed softly, and he could feel something through it. Sadness, fear, and warmth. It was Lyra. Somehow, he could feel her emotions as if they were his own. Then, suddenly, a shadow appeared outside his cell. It was Lyra. She pressed her hands against the wall separating them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Mother doesn't trust easily." Ethan smiled weakly. "It's not your fault. I just didn't expect to end up in space." Lyra giggled softly, then looked serious again. "I will help you. I promise." "How?" Ethan asked. Before she could answer, the ship shook violently. Alarms echoed through the corridors. Lights flashed red. The Queen's voice filled the air, strong and commanding. "Enemy ships detected. Prepare for battle." Lyra looked at Ethan with wide eyes. "It's them," she whispered. "The ones who destroyed my planet." Ethan stood up, his pulse racing. "What's happening?" "They are coming for me," Lyra said, tears forming in her eyes. "And now they will destroy everything in their way." Outside, Through the transparent walls, Ethan saw flashes of light in space, dozens of ships appearing like burning stars. The Queen's army gathered, their weapons glowing. The ship trembled again as explosions echoed in the distance. As Ethan pressed his hand against the wall, the mark on his arm began to shine brighter than ever, pulsing in rhythm with Lyra's glow. The connection between them grew stronger, and for the first time, Ethan realized something terrifying and beautiful. He could feel a heartbeat inside his own. And somewhere deep within the ship, the Queen looked toward the stars and whispered, "The bond is complete. Now, the human's fate belongs to us all." The ship trembled as explosions echoed through the corridors, and Ethan pressed his back against the glowing wall of his cell, trying to steady himself. The alarms were loud, a constant shriek of danger and chaos. Red lights flashed in every direction. Outside the transparent wall, he saw alien soldiers rushing through the halls, their armor glowing faintly blue, their spears alive with crackling energy. He could feel the fear and tension running through the air. An invasion was happening, and they were losing control. Then, through the hum of machines and alarms, he felt something deeper, a strange pulse in his arm. The mark on his skin was glowing again, but not from pain this time. It was calling to him, pulling at him, guiding him. He didn't know what it meant, but somehow he could feel Lyra's fear through it, as if she was reaching for him. The ship shook again, harder this time. The glass wall of his cell flickered. A small crack appeared, spreading like lightning. Ethan pushed against it with all his strength. "Come on," he muttered. Another blast hit, and the power flickered out completely. The walls went dark, and the door opened with a hiss. He didn't wait. He ran. The hallway outside was filled with smoke and sparks. He could hear the sounds of battle echoing from above. Soldiers shouted in a strange alien language. The floor shook beneath his feet as energy blasts hit the outer hull. Ethan ducked behind a fallen metal beam just as two armored guards ran past. He waited until they disappeared around the corner, then followed the faint glow on his arm. It was leading him somewhere, like a compass made of light. He reached a wide chamber filled with shattered glass panels and broken machines. In the center of the room, surrounded by flames and debris, stood Lyra, holding a small orb that glowed like a tiny star. She was scared but brave, her small hands trembling as she tried to protect it. When she saw Ethan, her eyes lit up. "You came!" she cried. "I couldn't just sit in a cage," Ethan said, running to her side. "What's happening?" "The enemy ships found us," Lyra said quickly. "They come from the Shadow World. They destroyed my planet once. Now they want to take me again." Before Ethan could reply, a massive explosion rocked the chamber. The ceiling cracked open, revealing the blackness of space and burning debris. Lyra stumbled, and Ethan caught her just in time. From the hole above, dark metallic figures dropped into the room. Tall, faceless enemies with armor as black as night. Their weapons glowed red, humming with deadly power. Ethan's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no plan. He pulled Lyra behind the console and whispered, "Stay down." One of the attackers pointed its weapon toward them. A blast of red energy struck the floor beside Ethan, throwing him back. He hit the ground hard, gasping. As the creature stepped closer, ready to fire again, something strange happened. The mark on Ethan's arm exploded with blue light. The air around him rippled like waves on water. The enemy stopped, confused, as the light spread from Ethan's arm to the walls, the floor, everything. A wave of blue energy burst outward, knocking the invaders back. When the light faded, Ethan looked down, breathing heavily. His hand was still glowing. "What was that?" he asked. Lyra's eyes widened. "You used my energy," she said softly. "The bond is growing stronger." "I didn't mean to." "It doesn't matter," she said. "It means you are part of me now, and part of her." Before Ethan could ask what she meant, another voice filled the air, a cold, powerful voice that made the walls vibrate. "Ethan!" It was the Queen. Her hologram appeared in front of him, tall and glowing, her face calm but fierce. "You must bring the child to the lower decks. The enemies have breached our defenses." Ethan hesitated. "And then what? You'll just lock me up again." The Queen's eyes softened, just for a moment. "If you die, she dies. Whether I wish it or not, your life is now tied to ours. Help me protect her, and I will let you live." Ethan didn't fully trust her, but he had no choice. He grabbed Lyra's hand, and together they ran through the burning corridors. Alarms screamed above them. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, directing them deeper into the ship. The sound of footsteps followed, enemy soldiers breaking through. They reached a door that opened into a hidden hangar. Inside was a large, half-damaged ship, a smaller craft, sleek and glowing blue. Ethan stopped in awe. "What is this?" "Our escape," Lyra said. "Mother built it in secret. It can travel beyond light." Ethan looked around for controls. "I don't know how to fly this thing." "You don't have to," Lyra said. She placed her hands on a glowing console. The entire ship came alive, lights flaring and engines humming. "It listens to me." As the hangar door began to open, the Queen appeared behind them, her armor cracked and glowing with energy. She had fought her way through the attackers herself. "Go!" she shouted. "Take her far from here. I will hold them off." Ethan's heart pounded. "What about you?" The Queen gave him a long, heavy look. "You saved my child. Now let me save you both." Before he could reply, a group of dark soldiers burst through the entrance. The Queen raised her hand, summoning a blinding wave of energy that tore through the attackers. The blast shook the entire hangar. "Go!" she screamed again. Ethan jumped into the pilot's seat, Lyra beside him. The ship lifted, engines roaring. Through the front glass, he saw the Queen standing tall, surrounded by fire and lightning. She looked like a goddess made of light and fury. Then, as the hangar exploded behind them, the small craft shot into the stars. For a long time, they flew in silence, surrounded by endless darkness and distant galaxies. Ethan stared at the controls, his hands trembling. "We left her behind," he said quietly. Lyra's voice was soft. "She will survive. The Queen of Valora does not fall easily." Ethan leaned back, trying to catch his breath. "Where are we going now?" Lyra looked out the window at the glowing stars. "To find someone who can help us. A friend of my mother, a human who once lived among the stars." Ethan frowned. "A human?" She nodded. "Her name is Dr. Kira. She knows the way home." Ethan stared out into the dark, the stars reflecting in his eyes. The mark on his arm still glowed faintly, pulsing with energy that didn't feel like his own. Somewhere behind them, the Queen was still fighting to protect them, and somewhere ahead, the fate of two worlds waited for him. For the first time, Ethan understood something deep inside his heart. He wasn't just protecting the alien child anymore. He was protecting hope itself. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction as Ethan's small ship drifted through space. The engines hummed softly, and blue light filled the cockpit. He had never imagined he would one day be out among the stars, far away from Earth, carrying an alien child who had become part of his life. But now, there was no turning back. He looked over at Lyra, who was curled up in her seat, fast asleep. Her breathing was calm, but her glow was dimmer than before. She was exhausted. Ethan sighed and checked the navigation screen. It was full of strange alien symbols. He didn't understand a thing. "How am I supposed to find anyone out here?" he muttered to himself. Then, as if in answer, the mark on his arm began to glow faintly again. It pulsed, slow and steady, pointing toward a distant cluster of stars. "You've got to be kidding me," he whispered. "You're a compass now." He followed the pull of the mark for hours, drifting through glowing nebula clouds and broken asteroids. Every now and then, he caught glimpses of wrecked ships floating silently in the dark. The universe was beautiful, but lonely. After what felt like forever, a signal beeped on the console. A small station appeared in the distance, a metallic ring floating above a red planet, surrounded by satellite debris. The name on the display flickered. Orbital Research Facility, Dr. Kira H07. Ethan exhaled in relief. "Guess that's our stop," he said. He guided the ship closer, and mechanical arms extended from the station, pulling them in. The landing bay hissed open, and silence filled the air again. Ethan stood, grabbing his old jacket, and turned to Lyra. "Hey, we're here," he said gently. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled weakly. "It feels peaceful," she said, "like someone kind is near." They stepped out together. The bay was dimly lit, full of dust and half-working machines. Ethan's footsteps echoed. Then, a door opened across the room, and a woman stepped out. She wore a long silver coat and had short gray hair, her eyes sharp and calm. "You shouldn't be here," she said immediately. "No one comes to the station anymore." Ethan raised his hands. "We didn't have a choice. My name's Ethan. I need your help." The woman frowned. "Help? With what?" Before he could answer, Lyra stepped forward. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. The woman froze. You're one of them," she whispered. Lyra nodded politely. "I am Lyra of Allura. You are Dr. Kira." Kira blinked, her voice trembling now. "I worked with your people long ago, before the war." Her eyes softened as she knelt to Lyra's level. "You're the Queen's daughter, aren't you?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "And he saved me." She pointed at Ethan. "But now the Queen wants him forever." Kira looked at Ethan, her face full of confusion and shock. "The Queen marked you." Ethan rolled up his sleeve, showing the glowing symbol. "Yeah, lucky me." Kira took a step closer, examining it. "This mark, it's a life bond. You're connected to her child. That means your energy is tied to the royal bloodline. If one of you dies, the other does too." Ethan's stomach turned. "You mean if something happens to me, Lyra?" "She'll die," Kira finished. "And so will the Queen." Ethan's mind spun. "That's why she said I'd never escape her." Kira nodded grimly. "You can't. Not unless the bond is broken." "Can it be broken?" he asked desperately. Kira looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "Maybe, but it would cost you something far greater than your life." Lyra looked frightened. "No," she said quickly. "He cannot be hurt. He is my protector." Kira touched the girl's shoulder gently. "Child, he's already in danger. The Queen's energy will soon consume him. You both share one power source now. If the balance breaks," she stopped, her expression darkening. "It will destroy you both." Before Ethan could reply, the ground shook violently. The lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. Kira ran to a control panel, her fingers flying across the keys. "No, no, no, no," she muttered. "They found you." "Who?" Ethan asked. "The Queen's fleet," Kira said. "They tracked your energy signature. She's here." Outside the windows, blue light flooded the red planet's horizon. Massive alien ships appeared in orbit, their weapons glowing. Ethan could feel the air change, the Queen's presence again, powerful and heavy, pressing into his mind. Then a voice echoed through the station speakers, calm but cold. "Ethan, return my daughter." Lyra looked up, her eyes full of tears. "Mother, please don't hurt him." The voice softened slightly. "He belongs to me now. His fate is sealed." Ethan clenched his fists. "I'm done running," he said. "If you want to talk, we'll talk." Kira grabbed his arm. "No, you don't understand. Once she takes you, you'll never come back." Ethan shook his head. "I don't care. I just want this to stop." The next moment, a beam of blue light shot down from above, wrapping around him. The air shimmered as he was lifted off the ground. Lyra screamed, reaching for him. "Ethan!" He tried to fight it, but the pull was too strong. "Take care of her," he shouted to Kira, and then the light consumed him. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the station. He was on the Queen's flagship, a place of silver and blue, glowing like the heart of a star. The Queen stood before him, her expression unreadable. She looked tired, her armor cracked, her eyes softer than before. "You shouldn't have come back," she said quietly. Ethan glared at her. "You dragged me here." "I didn't have to," she said. "The bond brought you. You came because she called for you in her dreams." Ethan froze. "What are you talking about?" "She fears losing you," the Queen said softly. "She sees you as her father now, and that makes this harder for both of us." Ethan's anger faded as he saw something new in her eyes, pain. The Queen wasn't just powerful, she was broken. "You're not doing this because you hate humans," Ethan said slowly. "You're doing this because you're afraid." The Queen turned away, her voice trembling. "I have lost everything. My people, my planet, my child. You think I can lose her again? You won't, Ethan said firmly. But if you destroy everything around her, what will she have left? The Queen said nothing. Then she stepped closer and touched a glowing mark on Ethan's arm. Her hand was cold and warm at the same time, full of energy that made his heart race. You have her energy now, she said. You are part of our world. You can never return to yours. Ethan looked at her calmly. Then I'll stay, but you have to stop this war. The Queen stared at him in silence, her eyes shining with something between sorrow and respect. You are a strange creature, human, she whispered. Brave and foolish. The ship's engines hummed around them. Outside, lightning flashed through space as a Queen's fleet prepared for battle. But inside the great hall, time seemed to stop as the Queen lowered her head and said, If you truly wish to save her, then you will face what comes next. The bond will be tested, and if you fail, neither of you will survive. Ethan didn't flinch. Then let's do it. The Queen raised a hand, and the walls around them began to glow brighter. The floor turned to light, and the air shimmered with strange energy. Ethan could feel his heartbeat merging with the rhythm of the ship itself. Somewhere far away, Lyra gasped, her eyes lighting up. She could feel him too. The Queen's voice echoed softly through the light. The bond between worlds begins now. Ethan stood in the middle of a vast glowing chamber, surrounded by swirling blue energy. It felt like the air was alive, breathing around him. The Queen's ship was no longer metal and glass. It was pure light, pulsing like the heart of a star. He could feel the energy crawling up his arms, seeping into his skin. Every heartbeat matched the rhythm of the ship, and he realized what she meant. The bond between him and Lyra was awakening to its full power. The Queen floated a few feet above the ground, her silver cloak flowing behind her like liquid light. The bond will test your heart, human, she said softly, her voice echoing everywhere at once. If your will is weak, it will consume you. Ethan clenched his fists. Then I'll stay strong. I'm not afraid. Her piercing eyes studied him carefully. You should be, because this test is not about strength. It's about truth. Suddenly, the light around him shifted and solidified into images. Ethan gasped. He was standing back on Earth, his workshop, his tools, the smell of oil and rain. Everything looked exactly as he left it. But something felt wrong. The air was too still. Then he saw it, himself, working at the table, unaware of the world falling apart behind him. This is your past, the Queen's voice whispered. A life you wish you could return to. But the universe does not move backward. The scene flickered, turning dark. Flames swallowed the workshop. Ethan saw his past self reach out, but the walls melted into starlight. Then another image appeared, a vision of Lyra, lying on a bed of crystal, her glow fading. She looked weak, her small hands trembling. She is dying, the Queen said quietly. The bond feeds from both your souls. The more you fight it, the weaker she becomes. Ethan's chest tightened. Then tell me what to do. Accept it, she said. Accept the truth. You are not her protector anymore. You are part of her. Ethan fell to his knees, the light swirling faster around him. He felt her heartbeat echo in his chest, her fear in his veins. He saw her memories, stars, a world of beauty, laughter, and then war. He saw the Queen, not as a ruler, but as a mother who lost everything. Her people destroyed, her home gone, her only child lost as stars. The energy grew stronger, painful now. Ethan screamed as light burst from his hands. The mark on his arm burned brighter than ever. Make it stop, he shouted. The Queen appeared before him, her eyes glowing fiercely. If I stop it, you both die. If you surrender, you both live. Choose. He gasped for breath. Every nerve felt like it was on fire. He could see Lyra's face flashing before him again and again, whispering, Please, don't leave me. And in that moment, Ethan stopped fighting. He let go of the fear, the confusion, the pain. He reached into the bond and accepted it fully. The light exploded outward. The chamber filled with blinding blue fire, and everything went silent. When the glow faded, Ethan was floating, weightless, surrounded by stars. His body shimmered faintly, his skin glowing like Lyra's. He could feel her heartbeat still, steady and alive. He opened his eyes and found himself standing before the Queen again. But now, she looked different. Her expression had softened, almost human. "You did it," she said quietly. "You accepted the bond." Ethan looked down at his hands. What am I now?" "Something between," she said. "Not human, not Velaran. You carry both worlds within you. You are the bridge." He frowned. "A bridge? For what?" "For peace," she said simply. "Lyra's bond has connected us. Your world and mine no longer need to be enemies. Through her, and through you, our lives are tied." Ethan looked away. "You could have told me this before instead of trying to take me by force." The Queen lowered her head. "I could have, but I have lived too long in fear. I saw humans as destroyers. I thought taking you would protect my child. I was wrong." For the first time, she looked fragile, no longer a ruler of galaxies, but a mother who wanted to make things right. Before Ethan could reply, the ship trembled. A siren blared through the halls. A soldier rushed in, shouting in their alien tongue. The Queen's face turned pale. "The Council," she whispered. "They've arrived." Ethan looked at her sharply. "Who are they?" "The ones who want my throne and my daughter dead," she said. "They've come to end everything." The room shook again as explosions echoed outside. Through the large window, Ethan could see dozens of warships appearing out of the blackness of space, their weapons glowing blood-red. The Queen turned to him, her expression calm but fierce. "You must protect her, Ethan. This is no longer about me. It's about the future of both our worlds." She raised her hand, and a beam of light surrounded him again. "Wait!" Ethan shouted. "What about you?" The Queen smiled faintly. "A queen protects her people. A protector saves what he loves. Go now, before it's too late." The light swallowed him before he could say another word. When he opened his eyes again, he was back on the small research station with Kira and Lyra. Smoke filled the air, and alarms blared. Kira ran toward him in shock. "Ethan, what happened? We thought you were gone." Lyra jumped up and ran to him, hugging him tightly. Her eyes were full of tears, glowing brighter than ever. "I felt you," she whispered. "You came back." Ethan held her close, breathing hard. "We don't have much time," he said. "They are coming, for all of us." Outside, through the cracked windows, he could see the red planet sky turning blue. The Queen's fleet and the Council's armada were clashing above, their energy weapons lighting up space like 1,000 suns. The war had begun. Ethan looked at Lyra, then at Kira. "We're not running anymore," he said. "This time, we fight for her, for Earth, and for the Queen." Kira nodded grimly. "Then let's make them remember what humans are capable of." And as the first explosion rocked the station, Ethan stood firm, the mark on his arm burning bright like a star. The bond between two worlds had awakened, and its protector was ready to face the storm. The battle in the skies above the red planet was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Massive ships moved through the darkness like glowing titans, their weapons tearing through the void with blinding light. The Queen's fleet fought bravely, but the Council's armada was larger, faster, and merciless. From the research station below, the explosions painted the sky in blue and red streaks, turning the horizon into a storm of fire. Inside the station, alarms wailed and metal groaned as shockwaves hit the surface. Ethan helped Lyra and Kira toward the control room. "We need to get this place in the air," he shouted. "If we stay here, we'll be buried alive." Kira worked fast at the main console, her hands flying across the alien controls. "I can activate the station's thrusters," she said, her voice tense. "But it's old tech. It won't hold long." "Just give us a chance," Ethan replied. As Kira powered up the systems, Lyra stood by the window, her eyes glowing with sadness. "They are killing each other," she whispered. "My mother wanted peace. The Council only wants power." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll show them another way." The station shook again, but this time the engines roared to life. The floor trembled as a massive structure slowly lifted from the planet's surface, rising through the smoky clouds into the chaos above. From their view, the battlefield unfolded before them. Hundreds of ships, each locked in deadly combat. Energy blasts streaked across the darkness, hitting hulls, tearing through metal. Ethan's communicator suddenly crackled with a deep, calm voice. "Ethan," the Queen said, "you made it back." He exhaled in relief. "We're here, Your Majesty, but your fleet's outnumbered." "I know," she said quietly. "The Council controls half the galaxy, but they will not take my child again." Lyra stepped closer to the console. "Mother, please, stop the fighting. There must be another way." The Queen hesitated. "If I stop now, they will destroy us all. You don't understand their hatred." Ethan cut in, his voice firm. "Then let me talk to them. I have your mark. They'll listen." The Queen paused. "You carry my power, but they see you as a human. They'll kill you before you speak." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then I'll make sure they hear me first." Before the Queen could answer, a huge explosion shook the space outside. One of the Queen's ships went down in flames. Lyra gasped. "They are getting closer." Ethan turned to Kira. "Can you open a channel to the Council fleet?" Kira hesitated. "That's suicide." "Please," he said quietly. "Trust me." Kira sighed and pressed a few keys. "You've got 30 seconds. Ethan leaned toward the MIC Council ships. "This is Ethan Blake of Earth," he said, his voice echoing across the comms. "Stop firing. I need to speak with your leader." For a moment, only static answered. Then a cold, metallic voice filled the air. "Human, you speak for the Queen now." Ethan swallowed hard. "No, I speak for her daughter, and for peace." Laughter echoed through the channel, a sound sharp as broken glass. "Peace? The Queen enslaved worlds. She will never change." "She already has," Ethan said, "because of her child, because of me." The voice went silent for a moment, then said darkly, "If you wish to prove that, come to us." Before Ethan could reply, a beam of red light struck the station. The entire structure shuddered violently, sparks flying from every panel. "They are pulling us in." Kira shouted. Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand. "No!" The light surrounded them, and within seconds, the world turned white. When the brightness faded, Ethan found himself standing inside a colossal chamber of black crystal and fire. The Council's flagship. In front of him stood 3 tall figures, cloaked in crimson armor, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. The tallest one stepped forward. "So, the human bonded with the royal bloodline," the figure said. "I expected someone more divine." Ethan held his ground. "You want her dead. Why?" "She is the last link to a dying empire," the leader said coldly. "And you are her weakness." Ethan clenched his fists. "You're wrong. She's not weak. She's hope. And you're afraid of that." The Council leader tilted his head slightly. Bold words from a creature of dust. He raised his hand, and a red energy blast shot toward Ethan. Ethan barely reacted. His mark flared with blue light, and the energy froze in midair, crackling between them. The power of the bond surged through him like fire and lightning. He pushed back, and the red blast shattered, exploding into sparks. The chamber fell silent. The Council members stepped back in shock. "Impossible," one of them whispered. Ethan's voice was steady now. "You think I'm human? You're wrong. I'm both. I'm the bridge he created, and you'll never destroy that." The leader raised his weapon again. But before he could strike, the walls of the chamber began to glow blue. The Queen's energy filled the air. Her voice echoed through every surface. "Enough!" Light burst into the room as the Queen herself appeared, her form shimmering like a star. "You sought to destroy what you feared," she said, her voice calm yet powerful. "But fear ends today." The Council leader sneered. "You've come to die with your creation." "No," the Queen said softly. "I've come to end your war." She raised her hands, and waves of energy rippled through the ship. The red glow dimmed, replaced by a soft, radiant blue. The Council screamed as their armor cracked and shattered, their weapons melting into dust. The entire chamber trembled. But as the light spread, Ethan felt something was wrong. The Queen's energy was fading. Her body flickered like a dying flame. "You're burning yourself out," he shouted. She smiled faintly. It's the only way. The bond cannot survive while war exists. Peace requires sacrifice. Ethan shook his head. No, there's to be another way. Lyra's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Ethan, please, stop her. The Queen looked at him one last time. Protect her. Live. And then the chamber exploded in white light. When the brightness cleared, the Queen was gone. The Council's flagship was silent. Ethan fell to his knees, his heart pounding. The mark on his arm pulsed weakly, then faded to a soft blue glow. Lyra appeared beside him, tears running down her face. She's gone, she whispered. Ethan held her close, his own eyes wet. She gave us peace, he said quietly. Outside the shattered windows, the fleets that had been fighting slowly stopped. The blue light spread across the stars, washing away the darkness. The war was over, but the cost had been everything. As the silence of space returned, Ethan looked down at Lyra. We'll make her proud, he whispered. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the stars above seemed peaceful again. The stars were quiet again. For the first time in years, the galaxy felt at peace. No more explosions. No more warships cutting through the dark. Only silence, calm and endless. Ethan sat on the edge of a silver ridge overlooking the glowing surface of the new world the Queen had created before her sacrifice. The air shimmered softly with blue light, and the sky was full of drifting fragments of crystal, the last remains of the Queen's energy. Beside him, Lyra watched the horizon, her eyes reflecting the stars. It had been weeks since the final battle. The Council's ships had fallen silent, their leaders gone. Without the Queen, the fleets had retreated into the far corners of space. What remained of her power had woven itself into the heart of this peaceful planet, a memorial, a living world born from her sacrifice. Ethan sighed and looked down at his arm. The mark that once burned bright was now faint and silver, glowing only when Lyra was near. He traced it slowly, remembering her last words. Protect her. Live. Lyra turned toward him. You miss her, she said softly. He nodded. Every day. He looked at the horizon again. She wasn't just powerful. She was good, deep down, just lost in pain. Lyra smiled faintly. She always said pain makes people forget who they are. You reminded her. Ethan gave a small laugh. Guess we both reminded each other of something. For a moment, they sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of the planet's wind. Then Kira's voice echoed through the small communicator on Ethan's wrist. Ethan, we're ready. He stood up, brushing dust off his jacket. All right, let's do this. They walked together through the glowing field to where a small ship rested. It wasn't a weapon or a war machine. It was a carrier built to send out signals, to reconnect the broken worlds that once fought under Queen's rule. Kira was standing beside it, typing into a control pad. When she saw them approach, she smiled. The transmitter's online, she said. Once we send this signal, every surviving colony will hear it. The war is officially over. Ethan nodded. Let's send it. Kira stepped aside and let him press the final button. A soft hum filled the air as the transmitter lit up, shooting a thin beam of blue light into the sky. It stretched upward, vanishing into the stars. A voice, the Queen's voice, echoed softly through the air, her final recorded message. To all who hear this, the war has ended. We have lost much, but from loss comes rebirth. Let our worlds unite, not through power, but through understanding. The bridge has been built. Protect it. The message faded into silence. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Lyra whispered, She's still watching us, isn't she? Ethan smiled sadly. Yeah, I think she is. He looked up at the stars, and for just a moment, he thought he saw a faint blue shimmer, like a shadow of the Queen's presence, smiling down at them. Kira packed up her tools and turned to them. What now? Ethan took a deep breath. We rebuild. Not just her empire, everything. Earth, Valora, every colony that survived. No more boundaries. No more fear. Lyra's eyes brightened. Then we begin with this world. Ethan looked around. The glowing plains, the floating crystals, the peaceful sky. Yeah, he said softly. Let's start here. Days turned into weeks as they began building small settlements, places where humans and alien refugees worked side by side. For the first time, no one looked at each other as enemies. They shared stories, laughter, and dreams. The planet was alive with hope. Sometimes, at night, Ethan would sit alone outside, watching the stars. He could still feel the bond faintly inside him, a soft warmth in his chest, like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. It reminded him that Lyra was safe, that the Queen's light hadn't truly faded. One night, Lyra joined him. "You never sleep," she said, smiling. "Old habit," he replied. "I used to stay up fixing things back on Earth. Now I just watch." Lyra tilted her head. "Do you ever want to go back?" Ethan looked thoughtful. "Sometimes. But Earth isn't my only home anymore. Maybe I belong here now, between two worlds." She nodded. "Then you are what my mother said you'd be, the bridge." He smiled at that. "Yeah, the bridge." The stars shimmered softly above them. Far away, in the endless night, the galaxies that once burned with war now glowed peacefully. The Queen's sacrifice had given them all a second chance. And as Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, the sky above rippled faintly, a wave of blue light, like a mother's final embrace. Ethan looked up and whispered, "Thank you." The wind carried his words into the stars, where they vanished among the constellations. A new dawn began to rise on the horizon, soft, silver, and full of promise. The war was over. The bond endured. And somewhere beyond the light, the Queen watched over them, proud, eternal, and at peace.